Attention, attention. We do need a few more timers. If you would like to be up close and personal and right where the action is, please come on down. We would love to have you time with us. We do need timers. Spectators, spectators, we would love to have you down on deck with us and volunteering to time. If you would just come on down, we'd love to have you. We want to make sure that we get started on time. Attention, swimmers and coaches, it is time to clear the pool. Swimmers and coaches, please clear the pool.
Last time I saw you were in Buddy.
we could still use one or two more timers. One or two more timers come and be up close and personal with our athletes and where all the action is. Come on down.
Good morning and welcome to the USA stop on the Citi Para Swimming World Series for Paralympic Swimming, brought to you by U.S. Paralympic Swimming, by Citi, here in Indianapolis at the legendary Natatorium. The entire series is brought to you by Citi. We're going to jump right into this morning. Our first event is the women's 100-meter freestyle. All of the events in the morning are combined, so you'll see different classifications swimming against each other. In this women's heat 1 from Mexico in lane 2, Natalie Gonzalez Gomez. In lane 3 from Canada, Miriam Solomon. In lane 4 from the U.S., Eden Schroeder. In lane 5, Amanda Sheward. And in lane 6 from Mexico, Estefana Mendoza Murillo. Lane 7, Laura Masson Quinones from Peru. This is heat 1 of 9. You'll notice the swimmers some of them start from on the block, some of them start from in the pool, some start on the side. Everybody has their own option. The only rule is you must have contact with that end wall. So you saw a coach there holding on to the swimmer's ankles to keep her attached to the wall. Looks like the early lead of this first heat is in lane 3. That's Miriam Solomon from Canada. Canada, I think they've brought 16 swimmers. We've got a little over 200 swimmers at this event. All of the athletes are either trying to make qualifying times to be considered for their respective nations' Paralympic teams for this summer in Paris. Some swimmers are here just to get best times. Some will be swimming through this meet, so they'll be not rested. But again, your leader in lane 3, that is Miriam Solomon from Canada. On your screen there is, I believe, that is Amanda Sheward. Little explanation of how we're all set up here at the pool. I'm on the opposite side of the cameras, so you're going to hear me get confused from time to time looking at the screen and looking at the pool. I've got them going in opposite directions, so bear with me as I get into my groove. This is a pretty close race for these 3 swimmers, all in different classifications, and we'll get into how you make the finals in a few minutes. That looks like lane 3, Miriam Solomon from Canada, comes in at a 1:33.48. Her second 50 was 50.64. Now, times are very important for qualification for the different federations from around the world. What we're doing at this swim meet and what you're finding at all of the series meets is every time a swimmer hits that wall, there is a point score also associated with their time. In each classification, those scores are different. If you were to swim the world record, that would be worth 1,000 points. Every 10th away from that world record, you would get a lower score and a lower score the further you're away from the world record. At a swim meet that you may be used to, you would hit the wall, get your time, and they would take the 8 fastest times from that event in the morning prelims, and they would swim in the finals. At this meet and in this series, and what's happening more and more at Paralympic meets, is you take your point score, which is a very individualized number for you, the 8 highest scores. So the 8 swimmers that are fastest and closest to their world record in their particular classification, those 8 swimmers will swim in the finals tonight. So as these swimmers patiently wait at the wall, we still have an athlete racing in lane number 4. That's Eden Schroeder from the United States. And she's got about 25 meters to go. One thing that you'll need to get very used to is we have sometimes there's a big separation from first to the last swimmer coming into a race finish. And that really happens a lot in the first heats where they're not seeded by time. only one swimmer was seeded by time, and that is the swimmer you're looking at. That's Eden Schroeder from the United States. She was entered with a 4:16.3, and it looks like she's going to be well under that. She's got just a couple strokes left here to get into the wall, and she hits the wall at a 4:10.16, which is 6 seconds faster than her entry time. At this meet, I would guess that most of the athletes will be entered at their best times. We'll take the time when you hear that whistle at the end of each heat. That means everybody's finished and the heat is clear to go off to the side. And then once they get off to the side, we'll parade the next heat out. And like any swim meet, the meet administration, the officials, your announcer. By the way, my name is John Deslier. I am a decades-long coach at the Olympic and Paralympic levels, so they think I know enough to talk all day. So that's what I'm going to do for you. Heat 2 is making their way to the blocks now. In lane 1 from the U.S., that's Lila Boykins. In lane 2 from Mexico, Karina Hernandez Torres. In lane 3 from Costa Rica, I believe, Ariana Cotto. In lane 4 from Mongolia, Nomun Corel. In lane 5, that's Caitlin Trevor from the U.S. From Mexico in lane 6, Ibeth Sorio Cuevas. In lane 7 from Canada, that's Hannah Ouellette. And in 8, also from Canada, Nikita Enns. This is heat 2 of 9 of the women's multi-class 100-meter freestyle. Like I was saying before, you never really know what the athlete is bringing to the meet, whether they're rested for this competition and going for best times for qualification, or if they already have their qualifying times in their particular classification and they're just coming in for race practice during training. And you'll see very normally in Paralympic competitions somebody like a coach there giving some steady help on the blocks. And heat 2 is off. We've got a early couple of sprinters there in the middle of the pool. In lane 3, that's Ariana Cotto from Costa Rica and Caitlin Trevor from the United States over in lane 5. You'll not only see front crawl happening in a freestyle event. Freestyle is just as its name gives you. You're free to do any stroke that you choose. So we have somebody swimming backstroke there in lane number 2. Lane 1 is closest to the bottom of your screen, and lane 8 is closest to the top of your screen. But our leaders have broken up a little bit there. That is Caitlin Trevor in lane 5 from the U.S. out in front, followed by Ariana Cotto from Costa Rica in lane 3. You won't see a lot of race battles in the morning. All of the different classifications are bringing different abilities to each one of their swims. The point scores also, I think by the second session, maybe tonight's finals, we might see those on the scoreboard and we'll be able to better explain what the points are. That was Ariana Cotto from Costa Rica in the dark cap in lane 3 that came in first in that heat. She was 49.04 in her second 50 and 134.86. Followed right behind by Caitlin Trevor of the U.S., 137.91. Third in that heat from Mexico was Ibeth Sorio Cuevas. This is heat 2 wrapping up. We've got somebody coming into lane 2 there. That is Karina Hernandez Torres from Mexico. And here at the top of your screen, That's Nikita N from Canada. Nikita's qualifying time was 2:21.8, and she is 2:29.3 in that heat. So the next thing you'll hear is an official will blow a whistle clearing that heat, and they will make their way to the side of the pool. And the rest of the athletes in this event are back behind a video board waiting for their call to the blocks. See that little video arch down on the pool deck on the right hand of your screen? You can see that next heat coming out. In lane 1 from the U.S., Mia Clark. In lane 2 from the U.S., Julia Hickson. Lane 3 also from the U.S., Riley Bosler. From Mexico in lane 4, Nesbeth Vasquez Mieja. In lane 5 from the U.S., Maggie Scherder. In lane 6 from Mexico, Vianney Trejo Delgadillo. In lane 7 from Colombia, Giselle Prada Pachon. And in lane number 8 from Mexico, Carla Bravo Gonzalez. So you can see that last column on your right is their respective classification: S8, S9, S10, S7, S14, S6, S7, S6. Those are all the different classifications. The classification system is in place to essentially even the playing field between the different levels of ability. See, coaches are either putting a towel on the starting block or ready to steady an athlete. It's one thing you do have the ability to do as an athlete. If you have some balance issues up on the block or on the wall, there's a coach or a representative can help you up on the block. As you can see there at the top of your screen, he's going to help her up on the block in lane 8. And then you also have the ability to have somebody balance you. So you'd see them maybe put 2 hands right around your hips if you have some balance issues up on the blocks. This is heat 3 of 9, women's 100-meter freestyle multi-class. Heat 3 is off and swimming. You'll see some long strokes and you'll see some shorter, fast tempo strokes in any given freestyle race. Right now, lane 2, 3, and 4 is shaping up to a pretty good race. In lane 2, that's Julia Hickson, Riley Bauer in 3, and Nesbeth Vasquez Mieja in lane 4. So it's a U.S.-Mexico battle right now for the first 50. They're coming into their first 50. That looks like Riley Bosler at 39.7 in the first 50, followed by Nesbeth from Mexico at 39.77. Racing for times, certainly it's a timed sport, but now there's the factor of racing for points. It's the points that get you into the final. And the point score from your classification is then compared to all the rest of the classifications, and the top 8 point scorers will swim in this event in the finals this evening. We'll start back here at 5 o'clock Central Time. 5 o'clock U.S. Eastern Time in Indianapolis. Coming in first in this heat, that's Riley Bosler, 125.07. Right behind her from Mexico, Delgadillo in a 127.93. In third there in lane 2 was Julia Hickson. That heat has finished, and you hear the whistle. That's clearing them to leave their lane and head to the side of the pool. In international Paralympic competition, they really just exit the pool from the side. Nobody gets out at the starting block. Makes it a little cleaner, a little easier. Everybody's getting out at the side. Some athletes will choose to use that ladder. Some will just push themselves out of the water. Me at my age, being a master swimmer, I am a ladder chooser. Heat 4 is making their way out to the blocks now. Now we start to see some names you may recognize. Starting in lane 1 from the United States, that's Mallory Wegeman. In lane 2, also from the United States, Vivian Wandiz. Diana Jimenez Martinez from Mexico is in lane 3. Sambul Zafar from Canada in lane 4. In lane 5, Incibelen Villegas Perez from Mexico. In lane 6 from Costa Rica, Sarah Miranda Corrales. In lane 7, that's Kiara Bauer from the United States, and Mia Dillingham, also from the United States, in lane 8. You can see again, looks like it's a S7, 8, 9, 10 combination. Our athletes are getting their final prep, whether they're going to get a hand up on the blocks or just some balance when they're there. Pay particular attention to the starts in this. We've got all kinds of different starting going on. There's many, many methods to even the playing field in a start. You see the coach is going to balance her. He will release, and you'll see his hands go out to the side probably when they start. Great starts out of that first heat. Mallory Wegeman goes out to an early lead. She's right about 15 meters now with almost a body length lead there in lane 1. That's Mallory Wegeman from the United States. Pretty good race shaping up for second place going into the first 50 with Vivian, Diana, and Sambul in lanes 2, 3, and 4. As they come into the turn here, you can see Mallory there on the right side of your screen doing her turn, getting away from the wall. She was 35:27 at that turn. She's entered with a time of 1:24.9, which she is on track to be, I would say, well under that. Mallory is clearly here to race. So Mallory is probably trying to establish some times for consideration for the Paralympic team, which she will likely make, but I'm sure her competitors will have something to say about that. But she's got a lot of experience at Paralympic Games. She's going to be well under her entry time of 1:24.9. Mallory hits the wall at 1:14.07. Great swim for her, very aggressive right from the start all the way through. Solid, strong finish. Finishing second in lane 3, that was Jimenez Martinez from Mexico, and third, Vivian Wandiz from the United States at 1:21.21. That completes heat 4 of our first event, the 100-meter freestyle multi-class for the women. Heat 5 is starting to make their way out to the blocks. They come out of that ready room, and they've got their music going. Everything is just as any other swim meet that you would attend. Some of them don't like the house music, so they've got their own tunes. Whatever it takes to go fast, I say. In lane 1 from Mexico, that's Naomi Ortiz Mendez. In lane 2 from Colombia, Laura Gonzalez Rodriguez. In lane 3 from the U.S., that's Elise Morley. Julia Gaffney, also from the U.S., in lane 4. Casey Freeman from Team USA in lane 5. From Mexico, Jimena Gonzalez in lane 6. Lane 7 from the U.S., Savannah Zerbel. And in lane 8 from Mexico, Diana Torres Claudio. Again, if you look down that far right column, you can see the different classifications of these swimmers. So they are going head-to-head between different classifications in the morning and the evening finals. The way that they're chosen for the finals is to get as close to the world record as they possibly can in their classification. This is heat 5 of 9. They dive in, coming at you there. Great underwater work in lane 2 there by Laura Gonzalez Rodriguez from Colombia. That put her out towards the front. Elise Morley in lane 3, though, is having nothing about that. She swims in the S9 classifications, swims with the United States. Elise is taking, I wouldn't call it a commanding lead, but certainly a solid lead for 100 freestyle. She's got the rest of the heat at her feet. Over there in lane 8, though, Diana Torres Claudio from Mexico is challenging her. They were 35-2 and 36-0, respectively, at the first 50. And that battle continues. Right now, it is Elise Morley from the United States there in lane 3, who's really got as good a second half of this race as she had a front half. Then over in lane 5, just behind her, is Casey Freeman, followed by, looks like Julia Gaffney was third in that swim. Elise was 1:12.99, followed by Casey Freeman at 1:15.60. Julia Gaffney was third there at 1:16.58. We'll also see some athletes swimming around, which means in the sport of swimming some off events, maybe putting that third event time down in case selection to the Paralympic team might be close and they might have more events to offer. So you'll see, as I said, a lot of different things happening. Swimmers always make their way to the side of the pool to get out. That's Julia Gaffney in that white cap. She trains full-time at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center with the resident team. Of course, everybody here from the U.S. is representing the United States. She does it full-time every day, morning, noon, and night. See that start from the previous heat and a great finish there by Julia in lane number 5. Oh, that wasn't Julia. Sometimes I get in my own way. That was Casey Freeman. Sorry, Casey. Heat 6 of 9 is now made their way to the blocks. Shelby Newkirk from Canada in lane 1. Britt Conrad from the U.S. in lane 2. That's McLean Hermes in lane 3 from the U.S. For Mexico, Paola Rubalcaba Nunez in lane number 4. In lane 5 also from Mexico, Nicole Brilovsky in lane 5. In lane 6 from the U.S., Liberty Freeman, Ali Deal from Canada in 7, and Ahalia Lettenberger from the United States in lane 8. This is heat 6 of 9 of the women's 100-meter freestyle mixed classifications. If you've been following the Citi Paraswimming World Series throughout the series, you have seen in the different countries a pair of broadcasters who are able to kind of work off of each other. Here at this stop, you've just got me. You're stuck with me. Sorry about that. So I will be, as they banter back and forth with themselves about what's going on in the pool, I kind of take on multiple personalities for you and have those conversations. Looks like in lane 7 at the 50, that's Ali Deal. I'm sorry, that was lane 2, Britt Conrad. That was my brain mixing up that I'm watching them go one direction in the pool and another direction on my monitor. She's got a pretty solid lead there in lane 2, followed by lane 6. That is Liberty Freeman, her potential U.S. teammate, who is making a big drive here for the finish. It looks like Liberty's got a chance to get ahead. Might be just about a stroke out, though. That is going to be Britt Conrad, 38-1 on her second 50, 1:12.48. Followed very closely by Liberty Freeman at a 1:13.12. Third in that heat from Mexico, Paola Rubalcaba Nunez. Heats are getting faster. They are always seated first. They're jumping around down on deck on me here. This is this is heat 7 of 9, so we've just got a couple of heats left to go. The U.S. viewers, of course, and international viewers will start to recognize some of our more household names that we are doing all we can here on these broadcasts to bring them to you. Put them on your phones, put them on your laptops, or if you're sending this to your big screen in your living room, in lane 1, that is Momo Sutton from the U.S. In lane 2, Anastasia Pagonis. In lane 3 from the U.S., Maria Franciscotti. That's Audrey Kim in lane 4 from the U.S. These are all at the U.S., so I won't keep repeating myself. The legendary Hannah Aspden in lane 5. Jessica Long, also a legend in our time, in lane 6. Callie Prochaska in lane 7, and rounding out this heat is Rachel Keene, also from the U.S. If you don't know what you're watching, we are coming to you live from Indianapolis at the IU Natatorium. This is a legendary natatorium. So many great things have happened here. As they say, all racers come to Indy. Some of them do it out in a 2.5-mile oval just at the outskirts of town, but we're interested right here in the natatorium. This is Heat 7. Let's see how many different Olympic teams have been selected here. When we get to some longer events, we'll be able to show you around the facility. Right now, that's Audrey Kim in lane 4. Got out to an early lead. Very aggressive first 50. And looking strong, like she's probably going to be able to keep that up throughout the race. We do have a butterflyer in lane 7. This race is all Audrey Kim. The only person about to challenge would be lane 5, and that's Hannah Aspden. Hannah's got a nice, long, steady stroke, but Audrey is just aggressive all the way down the pool, both ways. Love to hear what her coach told her or what her plan was, because she's really put together an outstanding swim. Finishing first there in Heat 7, that is Audrey Kim. She was 33.8 on that second 50. Low 31 going out. She was 104.58. Just behind her in lane 2 was Tass Pagonis. You can see the results there as the next heat makes their way out. I'm sorry, that was a little replay of this heat making their way out. And now that next heat's coming out. You can see just how aggressive she was that whole race, in and out of her turn fast. She is clearly chasing the 100 freestyle for selection, and that was just an outstanding swim from Audrey Kim. 103.75 was her entry time. Next heat is getting their blocks adjusted. Mackenzie Cohn in lane 1 from the U.S. is mostly American and Japanese and Canadian swimmers in this heat. Natalie Sims is in lane 3. I'm sorry, Morgan Stickney is in 2. Natalie Sims is in 3. Ayano Chichuchi in lane number 4 from Japan. From Canada, Emma Van Dyke in lane 5. In lane 6, Kanon Fukuda from Japan. In lane 7 from the United States, that's Abby Kershaw with Chloe Cederholm in lane number 8. This is Heat 9. Athletes are all behind the blocks doing those. Sometimes those arm swings and hopping around are actually effective physiologically. Some of them are just their pre-race routine. You can see if you watch the same swimmer over and over behind their block before their start, they'll do all the same stuff. Some of them will do that last little cap and goggle adjustment. Some of that's just nervous energy waiting for the starter to call them up. This is Heat 8, so I think we may have called the wrong sheet up. So once they get started, I'll go through who's in this heat. So all those names I read a second ago, I pulled an anchor man. Whatever they put on the screen, I will read. So that was probably my bad. This is actually Heat 8. That's Michaela Apastugi from Peru in lane 1, Keegan Knott in lane 2 from the U.S. Also from the U.S., Alexandra Truitt, Grace Newfer, and Lizzie Smith in lanes 3, 4, and 5. In lane 6, Sylvania Lopez Moreno. Lane 7, Sarah Vargas Blanco from Colombia. And in lane number 8, Matilda Estelle Acuzar Figueroa. This is Heat 8 of 9, so we do have one more heat, and I've already introduced them to you. But this race, with about 25 meters to go, out in lane 4, that is Grace Newfer from the United States. Commanding lead out in front of the heat. Really keeping her stroke together. Looks beautiful going through the water. Nice and smooth, long finish, outstanding. Grace hits the wall first in a 102.2. She was 32.5 on the way out, so she was under 30 seconds in that first 50. Alexandra Truitt, second in that heat, 104.84, followed by Lizzie Smith at 107.07. That was Heat 8. I mistakenly read you Heat 9, and we'll get Heat 9 coming up in the next race. We're shooting through this first 100-meter freestyle. Here's lane 9 making their way out on the block. There's 7, 8, and 9, 6. In lane 1 of this final heat of the women's 100-meter freestyle mixed class is Mackenzie Cohn from the United States. Morgan Stickney in lane 2. In lane 3, Natalie Sims. Swimming over in lane 4 from Japan, Ayano Chichuchi. In lane 7 from Canada, Emma Van Dyke. In lane 6, that is Kanon Fukuda from Japan. And then Abby Kershaw and Chloe Cedarholm round out this heat in lane 8 and lane 7. You can see the different athletes have different routines. There's that first whistle telling them that the next whistle will have them step up on the block. There'll be a series of whistles here, and then they'll take their starting position. So they'll get up on the block, get that back foot if they're able, and if they decide to use that wedge on the block. And they get away pretty fast. Well, this is our fastest seeded heat. Our top qualifier in this heat is Ayano Chichuchi from Japan. She's entered at a 1:00.34, and she is, as you saw, a lot of swimmers really attack with high tempo earlier in some of these heats. She does this with a very long and strong freestyle. That's Ayano from Japan in lane 4. She turns at a 30.4, so she will probably not be at that minute mark. She might be 1:02 unless she is just able to hold a pace for 100. You can see a much faster tempo there. And our leader right now from Japan, well out in front of this heat, probably be in that 1:02, 1:03 range. That is Ayano Chichuchi from Japan. And she's 1:03.0, so my coach John's skills at the 50 worked out pretty well in predicting should be around that 1:02, 1:03 range. She was 1:03.08. Second in that heat was Emma Van Dyke from Canada. She came in at a 1:06.9. Third in that final heat at a 1:07.14 was Natalie Sims. Now the goal of that scoreboard, hopefully soon, we'll be able to put the points up there as well. And then you as a fan can track those points in the morning and see who makes the finals. We'll have final results that I'll try to fit in to you anytime from the next 10 to 20 minutes, they'll give me the final results and who's swimming in the finals. See the start here. She gets away. They all get away so fast. Underwater is such an incredible fifth stroke in the sport of swimming. They swim butterfly, backstroke, freestyle, and breaststroke, but that fifth stroke is underwater dolphin kicking, and it is fast. It's faster, really, than any of the swimming strokes, so you want to take advantage of that. The only rule with being underwater in fly, free, and backstroke is your head has to break the surface of the water off of a start or a turn before you pass the 15-meter mark. And the lane lines we'll show you later have different colors on them that mean different things for the officials and for us watching. In lane 3 from Spain, that's Miguel Navarro Refario. In lane 4 from Peru, Isaiah Sono. In lane 5 from Mexico, Jonathan Hernandez. And Israel Valdez Catalan from Mexico is in lane 6. This is heat 1 of the men's 100-meter freestyle. You'll see some very interesting ways to start here. The swimmer on the top of your screen there actually has a very strong string that he bites down on, and you watch when they take their marks what happens. The coach is holding that string, and he'll be able to get a nice, strong, steady start away from the wall. I think they've asked them to relax. So you can see that he's biting down on that string, and then when the officials will say take your mark, he's probably going to pull himself up a little bit and use his leg strength to get away from the wall. I think we're clearing something up administratively. There's an official double checking some information, make sure the right swimmers are in the right lanes, is what I'm guessing. Looks like there is no change they need to make. She's going to blow her whistle probably again to alert them that we're about to start. You got to get everything right administratively so that the results can be official. So you see the swimmer with the coach in the red is keeping his feet on the wall, and the coach that was sitting on the blocks was holding on to that other side of that. Looks like a very strong shoelace type of string that he was biting down on to get his fair start. Looks like lane 5 here has got a commanding lead. That is Jonathan Hernandez Gonzalez from Mexico. We've seen him at, I think, most of the U.S. stops on the Citi Para Swimming World Series. This stop in particular is at the legendary Indiana University Natatorium. It's one of the better preserved meccas of swimming in the United States. Many teams have been picked here that have gone on to greater things internationally. The men's NCAA championships, Division I, were here just a few weeks ago. There were some regional meets here in the last few weeks. And here we are at the Citi Para Swimming World Series, the U.S. stop. Jonathan has got this heat well in hand. We'll see what his points are later and see where he stacks up. He's in the wall at 1:23.34. He entered this event with no time, so I'm not sure what he is capable of. But Jonathan had a solid swim there. Would have loved to see him in a later heat where he had a little more competition head to head. But we've still got a couple swimmers going. In lane 4 there, that is Isaiah Sono from Peru. And you heard me call it a freestyle race. Freestyle doesn't mean front crawl. It's any of the 4 competitive strokes. And he chose to swim at backstroke, as is Azar Valdez Catalan from Mexico. See, he's got a very steady tempo, getting all he can, pressing his shoulders back, which probably allows him to have a little bit of a longer stroke. with his level of flexibility, you can see that he doesn't probably have the ability to get his arms up above his head as you would see in some backstroke. So you're going to see him bouncing a little bit. That bouncing is not a flaw. That bouncing is by design. The way that he kind of presses down into the water with each stroke. He's getting a little more stroke length out of each arm when he does that. It also is helping keeping his body aligned, which is certainly more efficient to get through the water. That is Azar Valdez Catalan from Mexico in third, 3:02.47. 123 for Jonathan Gonzalez. Isaiah Sonos was 1:55.77. That is heat 1 of 8 of our men's 100-meter freestyle preliminary races. It's all multi-class, so you can see his start there, and his coach's shoe was giving away where he's from, and he got away from the wall very fast using that method. That race was won pretty handily by Jonathan Hernandez Gonzalez. You can see him there in lane 4 finishing his race. As we move on to the start list for heat 2 of 8 in the men's 100-meter freestyle, S1 to 14, also known as multi-class. From Nicaragua in lane 1, that's Jonathan Martinez Sanchez. From Mexico in lane 2, Christopher Sanchez. In lane 3 for Mexico, Diego Diaz. Also from Mexico in lane 4, Carlos Hernandez. In lane 5, John Trowick from the U.S. From Peru in lane 6, Jose Silva Diaz. In lane 7 from Mexico, Raul Martinez Valdez. And in lane 8, also from Mexico, Carlo Ibarra Jimenez. This will be heat 2 of the men's multi-class 100-meter freestyle. You are watching the Citi Para-Swimming World Series. This is the USA stop here in Indianapolis, Indiana, the prairie heartland of the United States. Is always a very welcoming community to those of us in the sport of swimming. Actually, any sport. It's a HQ of a lot of sports in America and a lot of great athletes, as well as that car race they have on the outskirts of town once a year. It's almost May, so that thing's coming up. But we are here to race in the pool. Again, when you see somebody, looks like they're holding on to them, they are doing that, and they are just keeping contact, helping the athlete keep contact with the wall. We're in those heats where they're kind of going to be all over the place, and this is no exception. Down there, we call it the outside smoker in lane 1. That's Jonathan Martinez Sanchez from Nicaragua. He's entered at a no time, so I think he's one of the final swimmers entered at a no time, and then the rest of the heats are organized by the time they enter with. So he's a little bit of an outlier there. He is 33.91 at the first 50. And then in the middle of the pool, we've got two guys in a good battle for third and fourth from Mexico. And then that's John Trowick from the United States. But lane 1's going to dominate this, and then it looks like 7 and 4. Lane 1 again is Jonathan Martinez Sanchez from Nicaragua. Lane 4, Carlos Roca Hernandez. And in lane number 8, that is Carlo Ibarra Juarez. Lane 7, though, coming in, looks like second behind Jonathan. That's Raul Valdez from Mexico, about to hit the wall in lane 7 there. He hits at a 120.66. He was a bit behind Jonathan Martinez Sanchez, 114.28. Third in that heat, lane 8. That other outside smoker, Carl Ibarra Juarez from Mexico. He was 44.46 on the second 50, finishing third in 124.87. You got 3 swimmers still going. In lane 6, you are watching Jose Manuel Silva Diaz from Peru. really keeping his lower body aligned well. That is practice. That is training. That is discipline. When you have the ability to keep your legs in line with your body while you don't have the ability to control where your legs are going, it is an amazing feat. I'm lucky enough to coach some athletes in this situation, and if you don't understand physics as a coach, you're not going to be able to help these athletes. I learn so much every day from them. Just the body positioning alone that he was using in that swim, the water was pressing just right on his legs to keep them aligned with his body. Well, that's the most efficient body position to go through the water. Outstanding swim there by Heat 2. Finding their way out to the blocks now. That's Heat 3. You see the different ways that swimmers are starting and finishing, and you're going to see a whole bunch of different stuff happening. And hope you're tuning in not just for the swimmer you want to watch. You're certainly not tuning in to hear me, but we appreciate you sticking with us here in Indianapolis at the Citi Para Swimming World Series. Coming up here is Heat 3 of 8 of the men's 100-meter freestyle multi-class. In lane 1 from Mexico, Hector Pedroza Alvarado. He is an S6 class. From Brazil, in lane 2, Alan Kleber Basilo. In lane 3, Marcus Vital from the U.S. In lane 4 from Colombia, Miguel Narvaez. In lane 5 from Canada, Leo Zhang. In lane 6 from El Salvador, that is Jose Rodrigo. Lane 7 from Canada, Sebastian Massibi. And then lane 8, Noah Thomas from the United States. This is Heat 3 of the men's 100-meter freestyle multi-class. In the background, you're going to hear a lot of languages, many of them Spanish, coming from South America. We'll hear some Portuguese from our Brazilian coaches yelling to their swimmers. But out in front, in lane 3 and lane 8, there is Marcus Vital in lane 3 from the United States, and Noah Thomas also from the U.S. over in lane 8. Kind of outside smoking this heat. I want to thank all of our sponsors, presenting sponsors, series sponsors. Here in the U.S., this competition and U.S. Paraswimming is sponsored by Toyota, and we want to thank the great people at Toyota for bringing us all they do to support our athletes. And if you're going to talk about Paraswimming World Series, you're going to hear the word Citi. Always thank the great folks at Citi for sponsoring this series. We literally would not be able to have this series without them, so thank you. Lane 3 and 8 are not quite going head-to-head, but they're pretty close to each other. They've got about 10 meters left in this race. You see the lane lines with the varying blue, white. Those are each a meter long, so we can kind of see where they are. Coming in first in that heat was Marcus Vital in a 1:20.06. Second down there in lane 8 was Noah Thomas in a 1:21.35. Third in that heat was Miguel Rincon Navarez from Colombia. His time was 1:25.62. We heard the whistle, so these guys are heading now towards the ladder to find their way out. And their coaches or team assistants or managers or just one of their buddies on their team may offer a hand in getting out. All different ways to get in, all different ways to get out. See, when they dive in there, their coach obviously is not going to push them. So when you see a coach steadying an athlete up on the blocks, as soon as that beeper goes off to start the race, they will move their hands very obviously out to the side, so there's no doubt. And you'll also see swimmers are going to finish in all different ways. He finishes by hitting that that timing pad with his head. The start list for Heat 4 is up as the guys are making their way out to the starting blocks. This is Jan Babayushki in lane number 1. Connor Giaffreda in lane 2. Got more on him later. His sister told me to please pick on him as often as possible whenever he's in the pool. So I'm taking that as permission. In lane 3, from Costa Rica, that's Nathan Alfaro. In lane 4 from the U.S., Landir Eichelzar. In lane 5 from the U.S., Gianni Mercado. Taylor Austin in lane 6, Max Kubik in 7, and from Peru, Rodrigo Wu in lane number 8. This is Heat 4 of 8 of the men's 100-meter freestyle mixed classification. That's S1 to 14. It's like probably one of our closest heats, at least in that first 25 meters of the day. See that yellow mark they're about to pass on the lane lines. That means they have 15 meters to go in that lap. And then this red section of lane lines is 5 meters long. And those flags that are right at 5 meters, those are for the backstrokers so that they can see that the wall is coming up. And then they generally have a stroke count into the wall. That way you don't have to take your head out of position and you know where the wall is. All these swimmers do enough swimming that they're going to have that same count almost all the time. Still a great race. In lane 3, that is Nathan Alfaro from Costa Rica, slightly out in front, but lane 6, Tyler Austin just took a lead on him, picked up his tempo, and put himself out in front of that heat. That's Tyler in lane 6. And Tyler Austin from the U.S. hits first at 1:11.45. Second in that heat right next to him was Max Kubik at 1:11.96. And third up in lane 4, Landir Eichelzar at a 1:13.06. Pretty close heat. Always like to see the races. Don't always get to call close races in the multi-class swims, so it's exciting when we get a chance to do that. I'm getting results handed to me from downstairs. From the women's 100-meter freestyle, I'll read off those results as soon as this next heat gets going, but we do have our finalists now. Our men in the next heat, that is heat 5 of 8. That's Alex Cooper in lane 1 from the U.S. From Canada, Charlie Giamichel in lane 2. In lane 3 from Mexico, Jesus Gutierrez Bermudez. In lane 4 from Mexico, Irving Contreras. In lane 5 from Mexico, Diego Vasquez. In lane 6 from the U.S., Sean Grady. Raul Gutierrez Bermudez in lane 7, and Isaac Barton from the United States in lane number 8. So I don't know that these are official yet, but I have our finalists for tonight's finals in the 100-meter freestyle. Shelby Newkirk is 16th. Ayano Chichuchi from Japan is 15th. 14th, Julia Gaffney. 13th, Ahalia Lettenberger. Alexander Truitt is 12th. Audrey Kim is 11th. Hannah Aspden is 10th. And rounding out that consolation heat, Grace Nudfer from the U.S. is 9th. Qualifying 8th for this evening's final is Natalie Sims. 7th, Lizzie Smith. 6th, Mallory Wegeman. Sarah Vargas Blanco is 5th. 4th, Mackenzie Cohen. 3rd, Jessica Long. Taz Pagonis is 2nd. And your top qualifier, Morgan Stickney, for the women's 100-meter freestyle finals tonight. Pretty solid swim. Your leader in 5 It's Diego Vasquez from Mexico. Good solid swim out of the men there.
Number 6 of the men's 100-meter freestyle multi-class.
There's the guys getting ready for that previous heat. See the guys finishing up there in that previous heat. A nice finish from Luna there for Mexico. Heat 6 of 8 coming up next in lane 1, Jesus Zavala Manuel from Mexico. In lane 2 from the U.S., Aaron Thomas. Diego Llamas Rios in lane 3 from Mexico. From the U.S., Jamal Hill. In lane 5, Noah Jaffe. In lane 6, Jack O'Neill. Nelson Crispin Corzo from Colombia in lane 7, and in lane 8, Aiden Williams from the United States. This is heat 6 of 8. We've got a few missing lanes here. Lane 4 and 8 are not swimming this heat. Get off to a very fast start. Good swim. Unfortunately missing Jamal, who would be right there in the mix. It's that invisible swimmer in lane number 4. I'm sorry, lane 5. In lane 4, not sure we had the right heat there. That's not Jamal in 4. Racing well nonetheless in lane 5, that is Noah Jaffe in a commanding lead of this heat. Lane 2, Aaron Thomas is challenging him. In lane 3, that's Diego from Mexico, about to hit in 3rd place in that heat. At lane 5, that was Noah Jaffe in 59.69. That's our fastest 100 freestyle of the morning. Second there at 101.5 was Aaron Thomas, and in 3rd, 103.53, that was Diego Llamas Rios. That was heat number 6. Heat 7 coming up. The guys are making their way out to the starting blocks. There's big Jack O'Neill pumping those guns before his 100 freestyle. Great turns, but that was all Noah Jaffe. Very strong, high tempo finish. Exactly what a coach talks to their athlete about doing, especially in a race like the 100 free, is finding that extra tempo at the end. Heat 7 of 8 coming up next. From Mexico, Miguel Coronado. From the United States, Noah Bush in 2. Walker Keithley in 3, with Daniel Fora in 4 from Colombia. In lane 5 from the U.S., Trevor Lucasco. Owen McNear in 6 from the U.S. From Canada, Antonio Fricano from Canada. And from the U.S., Lucas Collada in lane 8. This is heat 7 of 8. Out to a nice, strong, steady, in-control lead there. Lane 4 and 5 are having a good battle. 1 and 2 are having a good battle. This is a couple of mini battles throughout the whole heat. But in lane 5, that is Trevor Lucasco. Nice long stroke. I'm sure his coach will talk to him about that breath out of his turn. When you take your head out of alignment when you're going the fastest through the water, it can be detrimental to your final time. So I'm sure he'll get that cleaned up and aligned and even better for the future. But this is Trevor Lukasco coming into the finish first in heat 7 of 8. He's in at 57.49. That's our fastest swim so far. If he is closest to a world record in his, that was Danny Correa, sorry, from Colombia at 57.4. Right next to him was Trevor Lukasco at 58.9. And then in third in that heat, 101.78, that is Owen McNair. You can see that they're quick here in the natatorium and taking those times down. We'll see if we can get them during our finals to keep those up a little longer so you can catch your swimmer. We're on to our final and fastest seeded heat of the men's multi-class 100-meter freestyle. You're watching the Citi Para Swimming World Series. This is the USA stop on the tour. We'll be here today, Friday and Saturday, prelims and finals. You can see Daniel there from Colombia had an outstanding swim. And I apologize to him for calling him Trevor throughout the race, but Trevor also had a great swim right behind him. Ryan Edelman is in lane 1 of this final heat. Carson Bruner in lane 2 from the U.S. Evan Wilkerson swimming in lane 3. Lawrence Sapp in lane 4, somebody to watch underwater on his start. Few people will challenge him. Jean Gerardo Godfrey Ramos from Mexico in 5. Nestor Ramirez in 6, Trevor Bell in 7, and Matthew Torres in lane 8. But keep an eye on lane 4 underwater. The official wasn't happy with how they came down for that start, so he called them back up. And we're going to try it again. But watch that. Lane 4 there in the center of the pool is Lawrence Sapp. See how fast he was away from the block? And now he says, see you later, heat. You're going to have to race in the pool to catch me. That is his signature move, is getting away from the block faster than anybody else in the heat. And then taking what I talked about earlier as the 5th stroke, which is that underwater dolphin kick. And I think you'll see him do that off of this turn. He will certainly be first off the wall. He's at 26.5, and looks like he was probably making the decision that air was more important than his underwater dominance on that one. So he came up and got a good breath, a couple strokes in. That's Lawrence Sapp. Love watching Lawrence swim. Every swim is at 100% when you're watching Lawrence race. And it's always great to see from my coaching perspective. That's Lawrence Sapp hitting the wall first, 29.76 on the way back. He goes 56.28, followed pretty close behind by Godfrey Ramos from Mexico. He was 29.88 on his second 50, 57.7 at the end. And as you can see right there, 59.04, that's Evan Wilkerson from the U.S. in third. There's Evan right before that race. But see, Lawrence Sapp just dominates the start, dominates the underwater. He gets to that 15-meter mark, which is that yellow lane line float before anybody else, and that's 15 meters from the wall. Great swim, great start, great finish, and dominance throughout for Lawrence Sapp of the U.S. Now we go to the 50-meter breaststroke, SB 1 to 14. This is going to have our athletes starting at the other end of the pool, and they just swimming one lap of the pool breaststroke. So the middle between the two pools there is always the finish, but when the race is a 50 or 150 meters long, we start from the other side of the pool. And that always takes a minute extra or so for our officials to get everybody set up. Got to make sure that the starting system works at the other side, get the officials ready, and then we can parade our athletes out. This is heat 1 of just 2 heats of the women's 50-meter breaststroke. All of the classifications at the Paris Games will not contest all of the different stroke distances. So as we just saw 9 heats of the 100 freestyle, that is definitely a race that's contested across all of the classifications. So you'll see a lot more heats of that here. The 50 breaststroke is not contested in all of the classifications, so we won't see quite as many competitors in those races. So where we had 9 heats of the 100 free, we just have 2 heats of this 50-meter breaststroke. In this first heat in lane 3 is Lila Boykins from the United States. Caitlin Trevor in lane 4. Lane 5 is Nelly Herrera from Mexico. And Ibeth Solorio Cuevas, also from Mexico, is in lane 6. And lane 1, remember, for these is at the bottom of your screen. Lane 8 is at the top. And our 4th athlete is making her way over to her lane. That's Nelly Herrera from Mexico in lane 5. And you see that she's possibly going to have an aid from her coach so that she keeps a hand on the wall or the starting block, in this case the starting block. And then her coach will release that hand very obviously when the race starts. And they are away. Heat 1 of 2, women's multi-class 50-meter breaststroke. Early lead there is Caitlin Trevor from the United States in lane 4. In lane 3, just behind her, is Lila Boykins, also from the United States. They are entered at 102 and 107, so we'll see how close they get there. Caitlin's got a nice strong lead in this heat. Some of our races also may be the prelim and the final for the evening, so we may not have all of the races in the finals. As a general rule, we try to get everybody 2 swims if they earn them. And a very, very clear finish. That was Caitlin Trevor, finishing in a 54.19. So she entered at a 52.8. She's just a couple seconds above that. Next to her, Lila Boykins in lane 3, finished at a 104.4, which is 3 seconds under her qualifying time. In lane 6, that's Ibeth Solorio Cuevas from Mexico. She finished in a 1:15.51. She was entered at a no time, as was her teammate from Mexico. As they make their way out of the finish end, we will soon parade our heat 2 of 2 out to the blocks. As any swim meet, there are always little delays along the way. So they're probably still staging heat 2 before they send them out to the blocks. See this natatorium. It would be great, Indianapolis area people, if you were in the seats. Come on out. I don't believe there's even an admission fee for this event. So come on out and see some great swimming. Just like we're going to see here in heat 2 of 2, that's Amy De La Torre Castella from Mexico in lane 2. In lane 3, Maya Dillingham from the United States. From Peru in lane 4, Laura Masso Quinones. In lane 5, Vivian Wanzis from the U.S. In lane 6 from Canada, Ali Van Wyck Smart. This is heat 2 of 2 of the women's multi-class 50-meter breaststroke. It looks like they're getting ready to start here behind the blocks for heat 2 of 2. We're about 8 minutes over our timeline, which we will go ahead of that and go behind that and go ahead of that and go behind that throughout the swim meet. So this one was scheduled to go off at 9:59, and we're at about 10:08 local time here in Indianapolis, Indiana. the heartland of the U.S. This is the Citi Para-Swimming World Series U.S. stop on the tour. Hopefully you are geeking out like I do and watch all of these stops on the tour. I try to learn from the other live stream announcers. I don't know that I'm teaching them anything, but I'm certainly learning a lot while I watch all of those where they're announcing teams are talking about the various swimmers. These women are getting ready for their heat. Some are stepping up, some are scooting forward to the end of the pool. We'll have some, well, it looks like we have at least one starting in the water. One is getting an assist on the blocks. You'll see on this start, as soon as that horn goes off to start the race, the coach there with the black polo shirt on, his hands will go out to the side very quickly to make it very obvious that he's not helping her go forward. So that's all her with a little balance aid up on the blocks. That worked out. Great start for all of the competitors. In lane 2, Amy Della Torre Castella from Mexico has a pretty strong lead here. Although our swimmer in lane 4, Laura Masso Quinones from Puerto Rico, is trying to challenge her, but this one's going to be all Amy. She's got about 5 meters to go there. See, when the lane lines turn solid red, that's a 5 meter mark away from the wall. She finishes in like a 44-14. Good swim. 49-46 just behind her from Peru. That's Laura Quinones. And in third in that heat from the U.S., that's Vivian Wandich. And I am always open, if you hear me mispronounce a name, to send that along to me here in the, I almost said arena, here in the natatorium. Lane 6 there, finishing up her race. She's just past that yellow mark on the lane lines, which means she has 15 meters to go. And then you can see those where it alternates blue, white. Those are a meter long. So you can kind of have a little cheat sheet there on the lane lines to see how far away. Then you see under those flags where it turns solid red, they have 5 meters to swim. That is Ali Van Wyck Smart from Canada, just about to finish her 50 breaststroke. And she hits there in a 1:58.51. You can see on the screen there your top swimmers from the women's 100 meter freestyle. On that far right column, you can see the points that I was talking about earlier. See our 30th to 21st points scrolling. And the ones that made the big heat will be the top 8. And then they have the option, once these results are posted, to swim or not swim. You can see our top qualifier there, Morgan Stickney, maybe not by time, maybe by time, but by World Para Swimming points, she had 988 points, which was the highest point score of the women's 100 meter freestyle. And you see the round off of our top 20. And I am actually one of her coaches on the para-triathlon team. So she's made a great decision to come here and race and see what she can get done. In lane 2 of the men's heat 1, Jose de Jesus Villarreal Perez from Mexico. In lane 3, Omar Osorio Salazar. In lane 4, Pedro Aro from Mexico. In lane 5, from Spain, that's Miguel Luc. And in lane 6, that's Riley Martin from Canada. So this is our men's heat 1 of 2 of the multi-class 50 meter breaststroke. These classifications are generally an impairment in the lower limbs of this heat, it looks like. not by design of the meet, but just the way this heat struck out. So you're seeing a lot of upper body breaststroke racing going on right now. Breaststroke, no matter what you're bringing to the race, is about timing, rhythm, and power. And you can see these guys out in front of this heat have all three. Holding the steady tempo down the pool. You also will see them take 2 strokes per breath. Well, that is actually faster with the abilities that they bring to this race. Since some swimmers are not kicking in the breaststroke where your kick would push you into that breath, these guys will take 1 breath for every 2 strokes. It's actually keeping their body more efficient through the water. That heat wrapped up with Pedro Rangel Haro from Mexico in first in 51:38. And we just have one more heat of the men's breaststroke coming up. These guys have gotten their whistle and they're headed out to the side of the pool to exit. While that's happening, you can see this great pool as we pan across to the start end for Heat 2, and the swimmers are parading out right now. You are watching the Citi Para-Swimming World Series. This is the U.S. stop here in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is hosted by U.S. Para-Swimming and their great sponsor, Toyota, along with Citi, who is sponsoring the whole tour. From Spain, Miguel Navarro Rio Frio in lane 2. In lane 3, that's Christopher Tronco Sanchez from Mexico. Lane 4, Trevor Bell from the United States. Lander Eichelzar from the U.S. in lane number 5. Marcos Zarate Rodriguez in 6 from Mexico. And also from Mexico, his teammate Azariel Valdez Catalan. This is Heat 2 of the men's 50-meter breaststroke, SB 1 to 14. That whistle has them getting on the blocks, getting all set. We've got some sitting on the blocks, some that are going to step up and race from the side. Some will step up and dive from the blocks. And as you see, they're in lane 2. That swimmer will start from in the water. And the coach will steady their hand on the block or on the wall to make sure that they have a legal start. You have another swimmer holding on to a strap to get their start. That helps keep some of the swimmers motionless, which is the rule across all of racing in the pool, is remaining motionless at the start, waiting for that beep. Lanes 4 and 5 giving us a good race here. That's Trevor Bell and Lander Eichelzar. Both swimmers from the U.S., they are going stroke for stroke, head for head. It looks, though, like Trevor has a slight edge now. He's just taken a lead. It looks like what he did was he picked up his tempo there in that last third of the pool. And do you see the difference that made? He just put a body length and a half between he and his competitor. That is Trevor Bell in first of that heat, 43.61, followed by 45.61 Lander Eichelzar. Great race for those guys. You're looking at lane 7 there. That is Azariel Valdez Catalan from Mexico. He's keeping his body motion tempo very steady as he works his way down the pool. He's got about 11 meters left to go. Actually, that is lane 2 that you're looking at. Christopher Sanchez from Mexico, and that black stripe on the lane line that he was just passing means that he is at the midpoint of the pool. Those two black floats on the lane line right there behind him are the 25-meter mark in the pool. So he's about halfway through. First there in 43.61 was Trevor Bell. Lander right behind him in a 45.61 lane 3. Mr. Sanchez from Mexico was third in 108.61. This is this is Miguel from Spain. He's about to pass that yellow lane line stripes, which means he's got 15 meters to go. He entered this race with no time, so we're either seeing a best time, a new good time, or the first time he's swum it. I don't think that's the case. That looks like he knows what he's doing. We're using his entire body, including his head, for propulsion. You can see when his head goes forward, his hips also go forward. And then he's really gripping the water with his legs and pressing his body forward. An incredible symphony of movement to get forward through the pool, through the water. That solid red lane line means, as you should have picked up by now, he's got 5 meters left to go in this race. This is Miguel Riofrio from Spain in lane 2, about to finish his 50-meter breaststroke. And he, as many coaches say, use your head on the finish. He does that quite literally, because that is the closest thing to the wall for him. He gets a great finish there, and hopefully that was a great swim. He was 3 minutes, 46 seconds, 0.52. Now we see just how many different ways you can swim breaststroke. This is a great lesson for all of us in bringing what you have and succeeding regardless. Outstanding race. Good fist bump there by those American teammates. We'll see how those finals come out in a few minutes. Our next race is the women's 100-meter breaststroke. This is SB 4 through 9 and 11 to 14. So multi-class, but not all of the classifications. It will be SB 4 to 9 and 11 to 14. S stands for swim, B stands for breaststroke. So if you're ever wondering what the SB was, that is the classification for breaststroke. And a lot of athletes in the pool will have a different classification for breaststroke just because of the different way breaststroke is performed. They'll have a different breaststroke classification than their freestyle, butterfly, backstroke classification. In lane 1 from Costa Rica, that's Ariana Cotto. In lane 2 from Peru, Dunia Felices. In lane 3 from the U.S., Chloe Cederholm. Estefania Murillo in lane 4 from Mexico. From Canada, Hannah Ouellette. In lane 6 from Mexico, Inci Viegas Perez. In lane 7 from Costa Rica, Sarah Miranda Corrales. And in lane number 8 from the United States is Mallory Wegeman. So we'll have, Mallory was just sending a smile and a wave up to her husband and child. But now it's time to go to work. Watch this great start from both of these athletes. This is the 100-meter breaststroke, the heat 1 of 6 in today's preliminaries here at the Indianapolis Natatorium. You can see they all got away from the blocks quite well. This looks like it will probably be a race between lane 3 and lane 8. Lane 3, that is Chloe Cederholm, who's out to a little bit of a lead. And then you got Mallory Wegeman just behind, out there in the top of your screen in lane 8. As far as a battle, that's probably the battle we have in this heat. But Chloe Cederholm clearly going to dominate this race. That's a breaststroke that you may be used to seeing. There's very little adaptation in that breaststroke for the ability she brings to the pool. Great turn in and out, very smooth, very, as coaches would call that, a very skinny turn. She did not interrupt much water and cause resistance. She slipped in and out pretty fast. But that is all Chloe Cederholm so far. See the top of your screen, that's Mallory Wegeman. Given a great competitive race. They're 15 meters away from that first wall and making their way to the middle. That black stripe on the line there, that's the middle of the pool for Chloe Cederholm. That means she was 75 meters into the race, passing that yellow mark. She's got 15 to go. Just a great swim. You can see she, when they come out of there, she looks like she's the only one in the pool. But with that last 5 meters to go, she continues her tempo. Looks like she's going to nice long stretch into the wall. Finishes at a 1:39.15. None of the athletes entered with a time in that race, so we're not sure if we're swimming best times or best seasonal times or if it might not be a good time. So, but the efforts there are definitely 100%. 1:47.25 for Mallory Wegeman there in lane 8 from the U.S. This is in lane 7 there, that's Sarah Miranda Corrales from Costa Rica, about to finish in 3rd in that heat. And looks like the timing system didn't give us her time. Swimming there in the middle of the pool. In lane 5, that's Hannah Ouellette from Canada with about a stroke and a half left. Nice long into the finish. And she finishes 4th in that heat with a 2:43.61. That finishes the first heat as these athletes make their way to the wall. And it's what a coach likes to see, is some tough labored breathing after a good race. Got away from the wall great there. Started her rhythm. That was all Chloe Cederholm in that race out of lane 3 and from the United States. Her breaststroke is something to watch and something to learn from. Great race. Outstanding. Moving on to heat 2 in lane 1 from Mexico, Ibeth Solario Cuevas. In lane 2 for the U.S., Caitlin Trevor. In lane 3 from the Dominican Republic, that is Lourdes Ibar Diaz. In lane 4, Tessa Naj. In lane 5 from Peru, Victoria Santiago. In lane 6 from Mexico, that is Emilia Gonzalez Chanes. In lane 7 from Canada, Shelby Newkirk. In lane 8, Abby Kershaw from the United States. This is heat 2 of 6 of the women's 100-meter multi-class breaststroke. And the classifications contested here are SB 4 through 9 and SB 11 to 14. This is heat 2. They're off to a solid start. Looks like the lanes at the top of your screen, 6, 7, and 8. Actually, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are out in front with an early lead from Abby Kershaw up in lane 8 at the top of your screen. Abby keeps her head nice and steady. That race has broken up a bit between Abby in 8 and Victoria Santiago from Puerto Rico in lane 5. Looks like Abby's going to hit the wall first. At the 50, Abby was first in a 47.27, followed pretty close behind at 49.9 from Peru. That's Victoria Santiago. You can see Abby's got a nice rhythm to her stroke. She doesn't interrupt it. If she's a very learned, disciplined breaststroker, you should start to see her tempo pick up a little bit in this last 25 meters. In breaststroke, towards the end of a race, it's good to pick up your tempo because you're starting to lose your power. So instead of having very strong strokes throughout the race as your power starts to deteriorate, you start to take a few more strokes per meter. And Abby Kershaw hits the wall there in a 1:43.34. She entered with a no time, so I don't know where that stands for her. Lane 5, Victoria Santiago from Puerto Rico. I said Peru before, and I apologize for that. I see the abbreviations, and sometimes I go the wrong direction. Victoria Santiago from Puerto Rico was in second, and her time was 1:52.12. Third in that race, Lourdes Abiar Diaz from Dominican Republic, and she was 1:57.59 in that swim. Still have a swimmer in lane 1. That is Ibeth Solario Cuevas from Mexico. She entered at a 2:46.64. I think she's probably going to be a little above that, but she's swimming with a good steady tempo. She'll go 2 strokes and then 1 stroke as far as her breathing rhythm. She'll breathe 2 in a row, and then she'll take 2 strokes before she comes up for her next breath. Hitting the wall there in a 2:52.26. So she was just a little off her entry time. That was heat 2 of 6 of the women's 100-meter breaststroke. You can see their times come up there. On the right side of your screen, that's still the 100 freestyle scrolling through the top 30. They get their whistle cue to head to the side of the pool as our heat 3 is set up. You can see the coaches steadying the athletes and then letting them go. Probably the best start there in the middle of the pool, but that was all Abby Kershaw. Great swimming here in Indianapolis at the Citi Para Swimming World Series, presented on this U.S. stop by Toyota and Citi. Toyota, a great sponsor of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and various sports throughout. Certainly a great support system that they provide for U.S. para swimming. We always want to show our gratitude to Toyota and certainly to Citi for sponsoring the Para Swimming World Series, and especially here on this stop in the U.S. in Indianapolis. It is a chilly, rainy spring morning in Indy. Not good for racing outside, but we are indoors, temperature controlled. From Puerto Rico in lane 1 of heat 3, Laura Masso Quinones. From the U.S., Savannah Zerbel. From Canada in lane 3, Sambul Zafar. Lane 4 from the United States, Ahalia Lettenberger. Diana Jimenez Martinez from Mexico in lane 5. Megan Giafrida in 6. From Peru, Michaela Espestegui. I'm trying, folks. In lane 8 from the U.S., that is Elise Morley. This is heat 3 of 6, women's 100-meter breaststroke, multi-class. So you've got a full underwater sequence there in lane 6. That is Megan Giafrida. Whole heat's out pretty even. So this will go down to really race strategy and fitness. There's really no faking your fitness in a breaststroke race. A lot of athletes are able to get out fast, get away from the blocks, hit that first 50 in a great time. But then your training really kicks in. So we'll see who the best conditioned athletes are, as many of these women hit the wall within a second or two. That was Michaela from Peru in lane number 7 hit the wall first there. She seems to be in a pretty strong commanding lead, but a lot can change in the last 25 of 100 breaststroke. Very symmetrical, good, strong, steady tempo. She's disciplining her head position pretty well. A lot of breaststrokers will tend to look forward or look up and then look down, and it kind of interrupts a good forward rhythm. She seems to be keeping her head in steady. 5 meters to go. And hitting the wall first there. From Mexico in lane 5. That was Diana Martinez. Her time was 1:43.43. You can see their times there. You can see their second split is that column under the word record when our final results come up. That's actually their second 50 split time. And then their final time will be in that far right column. There was odd spacing in that, so it rendered me speechless. I wasn't sure what those numbers were, but those were definitely their second 50 times. Heat 4 now is making their way up. There's no doubt that is Team Momo flag. Getting ready for all right. Heat 4 of 6. That is Elizabeth Marks in lane number 1 from the United States of America. In lane 2 from Colombia, Giselle Prada Pachon. May White in lane number 3 from the United States. From Canada, Justine Morier. From Mexico in lane 5, Maria Teles Gomez. Maria Franciscotti in lane 6 from the United States. Also from the U.S., Momo Sutton in lane 7. And in lane 8, that is Haven Shepard, also of the United States. A lot of these athletes are in the same classification, so they're battling for their position for selection for the Paris Paralympic Games. That selection, at least in the United States, will be finalized coming up in June in Minneapolis at our U.S. paraswimming trials. So for some, this is a warm-up meet. For some, this is really putting the hammer down and establishing some great times. In lane 5, that is Maria Teles Gomez out in a strong lead. So you're not always going to see the first finisher make it into the finals from some of these heats. Some of the athletes that are finishing well back in the pack may be scoring higher points in their classification and therefore earning their way into the final. The way the points work, and I'll grossly oversimplify this for you, in each classification, whatever the world record time is, it is assigned 1,000 points. For each period of time, which is generally each 10th of a second, the score gets lower and lower and lower the further you are away from the world record. when it's all compiled for each classification, you have a ranking. And then we take the top 8 rankings from across all of the qualification heats, and those top 8 swimmers will make it into our championship final this evening. That'll start at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern Time, here in Indianapolis. In that heat, we had Justine Morier from Canada in first at 1:26.15. Second was Maria Gomez from Mexico. Third was May White. And fourth from the United States of America, that was Elizabeth Marks at a 1:41.40. Heat 5 is coming up. And you can see them getting away from their start, establishing a nice long stroke. Good head position there. That's almost a how-to of breaststroke head position. They get that one dolphin kick before they come back up off of a turn. Outstanding swimming out of heat number 4. I think we'll see some of those heat 4 swimmers in our final. Maybe not coming out with the fastest times across, but the highest point scores, as they're really competing against so many things now. You're not just competing against the clock, you're competing against the competitors in your heat, and you are competing to be ranked up against the world record in your event. This is heat 5 of 6. Diana Torres in lane 1 from Mexico. In lane 2 from Canada, Mary Jeeb. In lane 3, Hannah Aspden. Lane 4, Olivia Chambers. Olivia Chambers, happy 21st birthday. I was told that she doesn't want anyone to know that, so we'll make sure that everyone does. America, Makeda Andrade from Mexico is in lane 5. Emma Van Dyke from Canada is in lane 6. Naomi Somiera Mandujano in lane 7 from Mexico. Also from Mexico, Natalia Gonzalez Gomez. This is heat 5 of 6 in the women's 100-meter breaststroke. This is a more standard shape of a heat that you would see, that V pattern. And that is our birthday girl, Olivia Chambers, out in front in lane 4. Really swimming great. I would guess that she is a bit rested for this meet, just in watching how strong and steady her tempo and strength is this late in the race. She's only got about 20 meters to go. That's Olivia Chambers out in front in lane number 4. Swimming very strong, really pressing forward. Not much head movement, which is really good. If you can keep your head and neck pretty steady, and you throw that whole upper body forward, you can see her doing that right into the finish there. That is Olivia Chambers, happy 21st at a 1:19.75. She swims at the University of Northern Iowa, a school that has embraced Paralympic sport quite well with her coach Ben there at UNI. Big shout out to Cedar Falls. Second in that heat was America Makeda Andrade from Mexico in a 1:28.31. Third from Canada, Emma Van Dyke, 1:32.17. Fourth, Hannah Aspden, and her time just got pulled off the scoreboard. There's Hannah getting ready for that last heat. Just really handled that heat well. Olivia Chambers. Happy 21st. Now I just need to make sure she doesn't recognize me, because she's going to let me have it for telling the world it's her birthday. You got to celebrate those. They're always great days. In our final heat, heat number 6 of 6 of the women's 100-meter breaststroke, in lane 1 from Mexico, Jimena Gonzalez. In lane 2, Rebecca Lugo. In lane 3, from Canada, Ali Deal. In lane 4, from the U.S., Colleen Young. Kanan Fakuda from Japan in lane number 5. From Mexico in lane 6, Amy Della Torre Castella. In lane 7 from the U.S., Sarah Bowfinger. And in lane 8 from the United States, that is Jessica Long. See, we're starting to see some athletes that are swimming all of the events. I don't know if there is not sure if there is an event limit per day or over the whole meet. Some of the athletes are just going to very surgically swim a couple of events at this meet, where they're going to many of the stops on the Citi Paris Swimming World Series, traveling the world this year in their lead up to the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. And we'll see some breaststroke specialists in this heat. Some athletes in this meet are swimming all of their best events. Some of them are swimming some of their secondary events so that they can try to solidify a place on the teams that are being selected throughout the selection period for the Paris Games. Very clearly in lane 4, that is Colleen Young, a pretty commanding lead in this final heat of the women's 100-meter breaststroke multi-class. Trying to find Colleen's entry time so we can compare. She's 36.66 on the first 50. She's entered at a 1:17, so I would say she's pretty well on track if she's in good condition. Pretty well on track to get pretty close to that 1:17 time. She's hitting mid-pool there at that black line across the pool of the lane lines. Colleen Young is a seasoned veteran of Team USA and certainly fighting the good fight to get herself selected to this year's Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. She's got 5 meters left there. See how she presses her entire upper body forward, not just her head down. She's 1:19.75, so she's just a couple of seconds off that entry time. Finishing second there in lane 3, Ali Deal from Canada. She was 1:28.35. Her second 50 was 46.40. Third from Japan, Kanan Fukuda in a 1:32 flat, 1:32.00. Finishing the heat there. Was Tessa from the United States in 1:48.02. We should have our men's 100 freestyle results here pretty soon, as we have just finished up the women's 100 breaststroke. And we're on to 6 heats of the men's 100-meter breaststroke. Great starts there by that previous heat. Nice long streamline, a pull down, and then break through the surface, racing breaststroke. Colleen had a great swim there. A couple seconds off her entry time, but certainly a good swim. I'm sure she'll be pleased with that. Our men are now heading towards the blocks. That is Jesus Manuel Zavala will be in lane 3. In lane 4 from Canada, Liu Zhang. In lane 5 from the United States, Cirrus Kia. So this will be heat 1 of the men's 100-meter breaststroke. We're just about 10-15 minutes behind our timeline, but we don't have a commercial timeline to stick to, so we're going to give you the entire swim meet. Heat 1 is away from the blocks now. Looks like Jesus Antonio Zavala Manuel from Mexico is a breaststroke specialist. He's out in front. This heat does not enter with any time, so we don't have a means of comparison. But it looks like he is certainly a breaststroker. Great symmetrical breaststroke by all 3 of these swimmers with what they're bringing to the event. Jesus turns first at 50 meters in 44.73. So if you, as a very rough guide, if they're in good shape, you could double that. So that's 124, 128. Looks like he'll probably be around that 130 range. Sorry, I'm doing my math in my head out loud. I should keep that to myself. He might be around that 130, 135 range. Holding his stroke nice and long. He didn't shorten it up there as he fatigues. He's got 5 meters to go. Oh, don't make me a liar out of me. 135. Good guess, Coach John. Jesus comes in there from Mexico at 135.96. And followed not too far behind from him in lane 5. That's Cirrus Kai from the United States in a 145.05. Still going in this heat is Liu Zhang from Canada. He's got about 7 meters to go. Now 5. Holding his stroke nice and symmetrical there. And he finished. Good two-hand touch in a 210.42. So that's first, second, third out of our first heat. These guys are on their way to the wall as our next heat starts to make their way out. Good start, solid, well out in front. Underwater pull, underwater kick, comes up swimming. First to the 50 and first to the 100. Great swimming. All right, heat 2 in our start list. From Nicaragua, that is Jonathan Martinez Sanchez in lane 1. In lane 2 from Mexico, Jonathan Hernandez. Josue Rodrigo from El Salvador in lane number 3. Martin Riley from Canada in 4. Rodrigo Wu in lane 5 from Peru. Carlo Rodrigo Ibarra Juarez from Mexico is in lane number 6. In lane 7, that is Walker Keithley from the United States. This is heat 2 of 6 in our men's 100-meter breaststroke multi-class. And multi-class in this event is SB 4 through SB 9 and SB 11 through SB 14. The S in the classification stands for swimming. The B stands for breaststroke. In another classification, you would see SM, and that would be for the medley, the M standing for medley. The other events, it would just be the S, and that is for freestyle and backstroke and butterfly. This heat in lane 7, getting away quick, is Carlo Rodriguez Ibarra Juarez. I'm sorry, that's Keithley Walker. I couldn't see the flag on his cap. I apologize, Keithley. Here we go. About 30 meters down the pool. He has a pretty strong lead. Something that I think he's probably going to be able to maintain against the rest of this heat. He's about 5 or 6 meters ahead of his second place competitor. That's Walker Keithley hitting the wall there in a 46.5. Again, most of this heat is seeded without times, so we're not sure how their times will stack up against their best times or their entered times. But that is Walker well in control of this heat 2 swim of the men's 100 breaststroke. In case you don't know, you are watching the Citi Paraswimming World Series. This is the U.S. stop here in Indianapolis at the Indiana University Natatorium, a legendary pool here in the United States. Pretty good race for second and third back there behind Walker. But this one was all Walker Keithley. He's going to finish in a 137.84, and just behind him there, we have a pretty good race shaping up for for third, I think. I think second is well in hand there in lane 1. That is Jonathan Sanchez from Nicaragua. Jonathan hit the wall at a 1:56.49. Again, we don't know his entry time. Beginning with Heat 3, we'll have them all seated by time, so we'll be able to compare what they're entered versus how they finish. And that whistle cues the end of heat number 2. Heat number 3 will be coming up next. These guys make their way to the side of the pool. We have points coming up here. This is the women's 50-meter breaststroke. Amy De La Torres Castella with 561 points. 408 points was second. Maya Dillingham from the United States. From Puerto Rico, that is Laura Masso Quinones with 337. Those are your top 3 finishers in the women's long course 50-meter breaststroke. Rounding out 4th, Nelly Herrera. 5th, Lila Boykins. Ibeth Cuevas from Mexico, Vivian Wandich from the United States in 7th, and last qualifier for the night is Ali Van Wyck Smart with 84 points. Now those are the point scores, regardless of their classification. They earn those in the classification up against the world record time, but then across the entire race, they are ranked for the final. So we've got Carlos Roca Hernandez, Sean Grady, Aniel Castan Gomez in 3 from Mexico, Jose Villarreal Perez, Diego Gonzalez Andrade from Mexico in 5. Lane 6 from Colombia, Miguel Rincon Narvaez, he's from Colombia. From the United States, that's Gianni Mercado in lane number 7. Alan Kleber Basilio from Brazil is in lane number 8. This is heat 3 of the men's 100-meter breaststroke multi-class. The classifications contesting this are SB 4 through 9 and SB 11 through 14. All right, it's getting a little frog in my throat there. Hopefully we got that cleared out. This is a pretty solid race. It's pretty close to a straight line from lanes 2 through 7 as they come into their 50. And hitting the wall first there is Diego Andrade from Mexico. He was there in a 50.1. We'll see if he can hang on to that, and it looks like he certainly is. He's put a little space between he and the rest of the heat. Gianni Mercado there in lane 7 at the bottom of your screen was making a move, but now we've got it back to a pretty close race down the middle of the pool with Diego and Miguel from Mexico and Colombia battling it out now. That's Gianni over in lane 7. That's actually Sean over in lane 2. Wow, great close race for these guys. Who's going to reach longest? And that is, I'm not sure the clock is giving us an accurate finish. I think the timing system might have been a little off, so I'm not going to call that was Diego, I believe, in lane 5 that hit the wall first. His touchpad didn't trigger, or he didn't hit it hard enough, but the officials will go out and make sure that the backup timers have some times. And when it comes to the timing system, it is mostly electronic. You can see there on the right side of your screen, the men's 50 breaststroke results have come up. First from Spain, I believe, Mikel we can't control that scroll, so we just have to read it when we see it. They're teasing us a little bit with just putting that men's 50 breaststroke. But if you saw your swimmer, outstanding. Just remember those World Para Swimming points on the far right of the column. If you want to swim in the finals, that is the number that matters. The top 8 point scorers up against their time in their classification against the world record. See, when you see the swimmers in the 9s is when you're going to see usually your top athletes. They live their life in the 900s and always want to get to that 1,000 and break that world record. We've got Heat 4 coming up. That's Miguel Lopez Coronado in lane 1. Max Kubik in lane 2 from the U.S., also from the United States. That is Morgan Ray. When Morgan watches this playback, he will sigh in relief that I used his correct name. And to the Ray family, I got it right. Emmett Martin in lane number 4 from the U.S. Nelson Crispin Corzo from Colombia in 5. Mexico in lane 6 with Juan Gutierrez Bermudez. In lane 7, that is Ryan Eidelman. And in lane 8 from Mexico, Irving Luna Contreras. This is Heat 4 of 6 of the men's 100-meter breaststroke multi-class. Lane 4, that's Emmett Martin getting out ahead of the heat. Very strong kick, pressing him forward. That's Emmett Martin in the middle of the pool, heading away from us. Great swimming going on for all these guys. Looks like there's a lot of probably breaststroke and individual medley specialists in this heat. If you've got the breaststroke, you probably are also swimming in the individual medley events. See all the different styles based on the different classifications. This is a great swim for Emmett out in front there in lane 4. He's got about 4 meters to go. That's only about 2 strokes for him. That'd be 4 or 5 for me. He finishes that heat. That's Emmett Martin from the United States in 1:16.14. His second split was 40.55. Just behind him was Nelson Corzo from Colombia in a 1:20.78. Just got one swimmer there in lane 8 finishing up. He's got about 5 meters to go. That is Irving Luna Contreras from Mexico. We're going to have the results, I think, of the men's breaststroke that we'll be able to give you here after this heat. Outstanding swimming across. Here's a men's 50 breaststroke. Again, if you look at that column of numbers on the right of your screen, you can see the point score that their time got them. And it's really not that complicated how they get to that. I'm not going to put the equation or the name of the equation up here on the screen, but they swim a time, and that time goes up the world record, goes up against the world record in their classification in that event. And the world record has a score of 1,000 points. So every bit of time you go away from that world record, you get a score lower than 1,000. So our top qualifier in the men's 50 breaststroke had 764 points. That's Miguel Luque from Spain. Second, Mexico, Pedro Rangel Haro. and so on. You can just see down there our first U.S. swimmer there is lane number 5, Trevor Bell. And that is a very international top 10, which is what we want. We want all of these athletes to see all of their competition. This is heat 5 in lane 1. That is Raul Gutierrez Bermudez. In lane 2, Tyler Austin. In lane 3, Sawyer Mills. In lane 4, Jeff Levitt. In lane 6, Nestor Hernandez Ramirez. That's Zach Shattuck in lane 6 from the U.S. From Canada, Hunter Hellberg in lane 7. And Diego Efren Mañana Vasquez. This is heat 5 of 6. We just have one more heat of the men's breaststroke. And then we're going to move into the 200-meter freestyle, where they'll be swimming 4 laps, or 4 times the 50-meter pool. Jeff Levitt from the U.S. is well in control of this heat. He's at about 56 seconds. He's just about to hit the minute mark right about now. He's got 15 meters to go. Looking great. On your screen there, that's Austin Tyler, but now we go back to our heat winner. That is Jeff Levitt from the United States, 1:14.72. Coming in behind him is an unofficial tie with Sawyer Mills and Hernandez Ramirez from Mexico. Those are lane 3 and 5. They unofficially tied at 1:20.90. Nice swim for those guys. We've just got one heat to go in this 100-meter breaststroke. You can see their times there. I always say unofficial when we see them right away, because all these times need to be cleared by the officials and then ratified for the finals. And as important as their times are for themselves personally, we're chasing those points to get a second swim. Jeff just had a great race in that 5th heat. Our 6th heat that's coming up, certainly you'll see a number of different styles of breaststroke. And we'll try to talk about a few of them. You see on your screen, heat 6 of 6 is up next. Jesse Grieve of the United States in lane 1. In lane 2, Charlie Giamichel from Canada. In lane 3 from the United States, Noah Bush. Fredrik Solberg from Norway in lane number 4. From the U.S. in 5, that's Aiden Stevers. In lane 6 from the U.S., Aaron Thomas. Jesus Gutierrez Bermudez from Mexico in lane number 7. And Pedro Rangel Aro from Mexico in lane 8. This is heat 6, getting away very fast, great underwaters. You see them come up way out there by that 15-meter mark. There is no 15-meter rule in breaststroke. It's the only stroke where they could, if they have the ability to stay fast underwater, they can pass that 15-meter mark. Lane 4, though, in this final heat, that is Fredrik Stolberg from Norway. The pretty commanding lead for swimmers at this speed. He's 33.17 at the 50. Aiden Stevers behind him in second in lane number 5 at 35.4. But this race is all Fredrik Solberg from Norway. Great swimmers. I hope there are some viewers in Norway enjoying this swim. While Aiden Stevers is making a move on him. I don't think there's going to be enough pool for him to touch him out, but you never know. He's picked up his tempo, and it looks like he did touch him out. That's Aiden Stevers coming on in that last 15 meters. If you remember, I talked about earlier, a great breaststroke race, your tempo gets a little bit faster and faster and faster in that last 25 meters, especially in a long course race. Aiden Stevers handled that like a pro. That was outstanding. And still a great effort by Frederick Stolberg in getting second in that heat out of lane 4. But Aiden came in, touched him out by a little over 0.2 of a second, 1:14.5 to 1:14.7. Outstanding race. With all of the different classifications racing, we don't always have great barnstorming races, but that was certainly one of us, and we thank those guys for bringing it to us. Up next, you see our women are coming out for their heat. There's a replay of the start of that final heat. There's the turn. See how far ahead he is at the 50-meter mark. And then when they're coming into the finish, he just inched up on him. Each stroke got his hands in there. You'll probably see those hands hit the wall right before. A good lesson for both, to reinforce picking up your tempo in the end of the race and to maybe show the lesson that speeding up your tempo over the last 25 meters can really pay great dividends. All right, we are ready for heat 1 of 3 of our women's 200-meter freestyle, S1 to 5 and S14. In lane 1 from Peru, Michaela Epistegui. In lane 2 from Peru, Dunia Felices. In lane 3 from the United States, that's Kiara Bauer. Lane 4 from Mexico, America Makeda Andrade. In lane 5 from the United States, that is Britt Conrad. Mia Clark in lane 6 from the U.S. and Lila Boykins from the United States in lane 7. This is heat 1 of 3 of the women's multi-class 200-meter freestyle. So they're going to swim 4 laps of this 50-meter pool. The big argument to non-swimmers, what is a lap? Well, in the swimming world, a lap is from one wall to the next wall. So this one is 4 laps. 200-meter freestyle. You get away pretty long and strong. Some dolphin kick there in the middle of the pool. In lane 4, that is America Makeda Andrade out to an early lead. This is a long race. Challenging right next to her in 5 is Britt Conrad from the United States. Now Britt's swimming very aggressively. She's going to have to be in incredible condition to bring that type of tempo to all 4 laps. But I don't want to doubt her. She looks like she's strong. Turns just behind in the 34.8. And America from Mexico in lane number 4 was 33.47. So about a second and a half separated them at the first 50. The swimmer America here from Mexico is got a long and strong freestyle that is probably going to last a little bit longer throughout this race than that higher tempo at the start that you see from Britt. But Britt is clearly a fighter in her race, and looks like she's going to put up a good time. In lane 1, that is Michaela Epistegui from Peru, who is challenging and you can hear in my background, I think that just might be lane 1 Michaela's mom from Peru. So she gets to cheer the whole way, and she is being heard throughout the world. I'm trying to make her laugh while she's right next to me yelling. At any rate, America Andrade from Mexico turns at the 150 mark at 1:49.19. Followed right behind her is Michaela from Peru at 1:56.35. The swimmers have about 50 meters to go. If her mom's yelling is any indication, then this is an outstanding swim for Michaela. And that is Britt in 3rd behind her. That's Michaela there from Peru, making that long trip from South America for this Citi Paris Swimming World Series stop in the U.S. But this race, this is all America Makeda Andrade from Mexico. 38.78 on her last 50, 227.97 for her final time. And it looks like Michaela from Peru is in second in that heat in a 236.16, followed very close behind by Britt Conrad from the U.S. at a 241.23. Then we've got a couple swimmers with about 15 to 25 meters to go. In lane 3, at the bottom of your screen, there is Kiara Bauer from the United States, and she's going to hit the wall in a 3:03.33. Lane 6 coming into her finish. That is that's Mia Clark from the United States in lane 6. And then Leah Boykins has got about 30 meters to go. As does Dunia Felices there from Peru in lane 2. She's got the edge right now in this two-person finish to the race. Dunia there in lane number 2 has got about 5 meters to go to finish her 200 freestyle. This is heat 1 of, I think we have 3 heats. Now finishing just behind them is Lila Boykins from the United States at a 4:04.94. That was heat 1 of 3 of the women's 200 meter freestyle multi-class. The next heat is making their way out to some walkout music. Walking out and rolling out to their event. This is heat 2 of 3 of the women's 200 meter freestyle. Nicole Tovar Brilovsky from Mexico is an S10 classified swimmer in lane 1. Caitlin Trevor in lane 2 from the U.S., also from the United States. Vivian Wandich in lane 4. That's Piper Sadowski. In lane 5, also from the United States, Liberty Freeman. From Puerto Rico, that is Victoria Santiago, and Ibeth Solario Cuevas from Mexico in lane 7 rounds out our heat 2. This is heat 2 of 3 of the women's 200 meter freestyle. They get that second whistle. That means a step up on the block and be ready to race. Some of them come into that take your mark position right away. Some will stand up and get a few extra breaths before they go. As a coach, I would say if you have a good sense of balance up on the blocks is to stand up and keep those lungs filling with air before they say take your mark. Looks like lane 1, 4, and 5 are pretty close together. That's Nicole from Mexico in 1, Piper and Liberty, both from the United States in lanes 4 and 5. Looks like Piper is going to have the lead at the 50. That's Piper Sadowski in 35.27, followed by Brilovsky from Mexico in lane number 1. She was second at the 50 with 36.42. Third was Liberty Freeman. Her time just came off the clock, so I missed that one. The 3 of them are swimming pretty smart for the first 75 meters. Nice long stroke out in front. If you put the body into quadrants, you can see that Piper is doing most of her swimming out in that front quadrant. It's very, very intelligent swimming. Your body's a lot more balanced. You don't have to fight to keep at the surface. Her kick is pretty steady and she's swimming pretty long and balanced. She doesn't have to bring her kick in until a little bit later. The real reason why you would kick a little harder towards the end of a 200 meter freestyle is not necessarily to get much propulsion out of your kick, but to overcome some balance that you might lose out in front of your stroke. So you can see her kick certainly has a rhythm. It's kind of a start-stop rhythm. She comes into her 150-meter turn at 153.99. That's Piper Sadowski of the U.S. Keeps her head nice and steady. Her stroke stays out in front. You can see she's always got an upper arm out in front of her. That's helping her balance her stroke out in the surface. If you can keep balance, then all of the effort you put into pushing on your hands presses you forward. Not sure how her time is going to stack up, but that is a very well put together 200-meter freestyle from Piper Sadowski. She's got about 5 meters left to go here as she keeps that long, steady stroke. 2:32.71 is her time. She entered with a 2:27, so she's a little bit off, but certainly a good swim for her. Finishing second up in lane 1 was Brailovsky from Mexico and Liberty Freeman from the United States in lane number 5 at a 2:40.47. Really good swimming out of everybody this morning. You can see even these swimmers coming in later in their heat have nice long strokes out in front. Just have Caitlin Trevor from the United States in lane 2 finishing up her 200 freestyle. She's got about 23, 22 meters to go. You see that yellow mark on the lane lines that she's about to approach. That means 15 meters from the wall. So you can see her kick has picked up a little bit and she's got a little bit more tempo. You know, when you know the end is in sight, there's a little inspiration to pick up your speed, and it looks like that she is no stranger to that. Finishing up her 200-meter freestyle in 6th in that heat at a 3:45.38. And I believe lane 7 is Victoria Santiago from Puerto Rico, just with 5 meters to go here. You know, when you fatigue, it's really hard to keep that balance out in front. And if she can get that, she can probably knock another 5-6 seconds off of her time. We didn't get her time. It didn't come up on the timing system, but a great swim by all of our women in heat number 2 of 3. They got their whistle from the referee to exit the pool. In most all Paralympic competition, you don't exit the pool at the end. You go off to the sides after the entire heat is finished, which is good practice, because if that's how they do it at the Paralympic Games, then that's how we need to practice doing it at all of the meets. Heat 3 is making their way behind the blocks, getting themselves ready. Allie Van Wyck Smart is in lane 1 from Canada in this 3rd heat. From the U.S., Maggie Scherter in lane 2. Tessa Nagy from the U.S. in lane 3. I'm starting to get tongue-tied. Grace Snoofer from the U.S. in lane number 4. In 5, that's Abby Kershaw from the United States. Also from the U.S., Riley Bosler in lane 6. In lane 7 from Mexico, Corina Hernandez Torres. If you'll remember, and if you're watching from anywhere near down under, when I confused the Australian and New Zealand flags, I'm still paying for that. My friend from Australia, Coach Greg Toll, reminds me pretty regularly to study the flags. Hope you're watching, Greg, or somebody that can call Greg and say you got mentioned. And I'm now waiting for my phone to blow up. This is heat 3 of the women's 200-meter freestyle mixed class. Great dive, great underwater, outstanding breakout. And wouldn't you just go figure, the person that did all that is in the lead of the race. In lane 4, that is Grace from the United States. She's entered at a 2:22, so we'll see how she splits this up over the 450s. Got about 6 or 7 meters to go in this first 50. Grace Snoofer turns in a 32.49. So if she can hold relative to that, she could certainly beat a 2:22. She's being challenged in lane 5 by Abby Kershaw. We saw Abby Kershaw handle that 100 pretty well earlier, so we know she can turn on speed probably whenever she decides. Both of these swimmers are holding a pretty solid pace, though. You can see the running clock there on the bottom left of your screen. And Grace turns at a 109.09 with Abby just behind at a 114.5. Again, see that nice long out in front. She's very balanced, rotating from side to side, keeping her kick very steady. Keeping your kick small and steady like that keeps your kick in line with your hips. And then you've got a lot less resistance to pull through the pool. Looks like she's breathing at will. Looked like it was every 3, then every 2. She turns at the 150, well ahead of the heat at 146.7. Abby's just heading into that last 5 meters of her 3rd lap. But Grace is really having a great swim here. She's got about 25 meters to go here as she packs that black stripe you see across the pool on the lane lines. Also a big solid black line on the bottom of the pool in the middle. 15 meters to go for Grace from the United States. She entered at a 2:22. She's going to be under that, well under that, at 2:20.4. I think she's going to be very happy with that. At those speeds, coming in at the top seed, you probably entered with a pretty solid best time. Hopefully that was a best time for Grace. Abby now coming in at the 200 in the middle of the pool there, though. We've got some swimmers with about 25 meters to go. At that was the 100 turn for Allie Van Wyck Smart from Canada. This is a freestyle event, so you're free to swim any of the 4 strokes. Lane 2 on her last lap. That is Maggie Scherter from the United States. If you count off a rhythm, she's holding a pretty constant rhythm to her stroke. I would say her stroke tempo is about 20 strokes per minute, or 20 cycles per minute. A cycle, now I'm starting to talk like a coach, a cycle is both arms. So you would count 1, 2, that would be 1 cycle. Left, right is 1 cycle. And then we time that cycle and we come up with a strokes per minute or cycles per minute count. Then we can use our stopwatch just to time 1 cycle. So if I was to time Riley, no, that's not Riley, that is Karina, I would start my watch there and stop it there. I would go right to right. I would time those 2 strokes, and then I would come up with a value that I can judge how she's doing throughout the race. And I would write down all of those, and all those numbers would tell me the story of how she swam her race by changing her tempos throughout. Sometimes your tempo gets a little faster on purpose when you're in a race with somebody, but there's a cost to that. Your stroke can get a little bit shorter and cost you a lot more energy. Van Wyck Smart from Canada out in lane 1. Remember, freestyle is any of the strokes that you choose. She is swimming the 200 freestyle backstroke. And depending on where she has muscle control is the muscles in her lower body or around her abs and ribs. If she can keep those nice and tight, she can keep those legs aligned. And you can see that her legs are remaining parallel to each other, moving outside of the shadow of her body a little bit. If she can get that lined up by using the muscles up around her rib cage, she can go even faster than that. And that's Allie Van Wyck Smart from Canada 5:34.64. Outstanding efforts across the pool. And that concludes our women's 200-meter freestyle. And we will move on to the men's 200 freestyle next. And we just have 3 heats of this. And this is actually our final race this morning of this morning's preliminaries. So we'll have 3 heats of the men's 200 freestyle. And then we will take a break. You can check results at teamusa.org. Go to the U.S. Paraswimming page, find the meet, and click on that, and you can get the heat sheets, you can get the results, you can get the psych sheets, and you can get all the meet information of this Citi Paraswimming World Series U.S. stop in Indianapolis, Indiana. On the U.S. side, presented by Toyota, but on this international tour, this is all Citi, and we certainly thank both of our sponsors, all of our sponsors that support paraswimming throughout the world. Men's Heat 1 from Peru, Isaias Sono in lane 1. In lane 2 from Mexico, Diego Lopez Diaz. In lane 3, Max Kubik from the United States. Carson Bruner right next to him in lane 4 from the U.S. Jesse Grieve in lane 5. Gianni Mercado from the United States in 6. Also from Peru, lane 1's teammate, this is Jose Manuel Silva Diaz. And in lane 8 from Nicaragua, that is Jonathan Martinez Sanchez. We've got 1 swimmer there in lane number, we have 3 swimmers starting from in the water. Their coaches are holding their feet steady to the wall. As soon as the race starts, their coaches will release and they get away from the wall on their own. Good straight line in the first 25 meters of heat 1 of 3 of this men's 200 meter freestyle mixed class. Unlike a lot of the other heats, this heat does have seeded times. Our top seed on paper was Carson Bruner in lane number 4. He entered at a 2:16.44, and he is living up to that so far. He is in the lead of this heat. That was Carson at 31:70 at the first 50. Just behind him at 34 was Jesse Grieve, his American teammate. This freestyle that you're seeing from Carson Bruner is about to turn at the 100. By label and by name, it's a kind of a loping freestyle. You can see he kind of goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's not a steady, balanced rhythm, but I can tell you it's also not broken. That freestyle does not need to be fixed or adjusted. Everybody can get a little better at what they're doing, but that's a good, solid freestyle for 200 and above. I had the pleasure of coaching Larson Jensen alongside Bill Rose in 2000 and 2000 leading into 2004, where Larson broke the American record in the 1500 freestyle with a very similar type of stroke. Can't get away with that in the 50, but in the 200 and up, it's a very long, strong, powerful way to swim freestyle. That's Carson Bruner with about 10 meters to go in this heat 1 of the men's 200 meter freestyle, and he hits the wall in 2:17.63. So he's well off his entry time, but that's certainly going to be enough to handle this heat 1. Second in lane 5 there was Jesse Grieve from the U.S. in a 2:28.66. Third in lane 3, that's Max Kubik from the United States of America at 2:31.54. being the first heat, we had some faster swimmers and some swimmers with varying abilities. So a couple of these guys have anywhere from a 50 to a 75 to go. Swimmer there in lane 2 from Mexico, that's Diego Lopez Diaz. He's at about 3 minutes and 11 seconds right now into this race. He entered the swim with a 3:39.66, so I think he's going to be a bit off of his time, but he's got a nice, long, steady freestyle there. See how he's keeping an arm out in front all the time? That's helping him remain balanced. And the more balanced he is, the more he can keep his legs parallel and behind him. And that eliminates resistance against the water. So that's a pretty efficient freestyle for Diego in lane 2 from Mexico. Kudos to him and his coaching staff for keeping that freestyle very efficient. About 2 strokes left there, and he finishes in a 3:54.88, a bit off of his entry time. Coming in lane 1 there, that is Acias Sono from Peru, and he hits the wall in a 4:12.49. He entered without a time, so we don't have a means of comparison there. And then in lane 7, we have one more swimmer coming in. He has made the choice to swim backstroke in this 200 freestyle race. That's Jose Manuel Silva Diaz from Peru. He entered with a 4:51.6, and I'd say he's going to be a little above that, but pretty close to his entry time. Jose Manuel Silva Diaz from Peru finishes in a 4:54. So he's just about 3 seconds away from his entry time. You'll hear that whistle come up. These guys will head to the wall to get out of the pool. And you see the start there from that race. Coaches keeping their feet having contact. A good, steady, dominant swim there from Carson Bruner. His last turn from that previous heat. Coming into the finish, nice, as long and strong as the rest of the race. That was Carson Bruner. From, hopefully for him, Team USA right now, representing the United States. 200 freestyle start list for heat 2 of 3 in lane 1 from Mexico, Christopher Tronco Sanchez. In lane 2 from the United States, that's Jan Babiuski. In lane 3 from Canada, Antonio Fricano. In lane 4 from the United States, Trevor Lucasco. In lane 5 from the United States, Sawyer Mills. In lane 6 from the U.S., Cirrus Kia. Alberto Abarza Diaz from Chile in lane number 7. And in lane 8 from Canada, Riley Martin. This is heat 2 of 3. The official might not have been happy with them moving around on the block there in lane 6, so he waited until they all got steady and then said, take your mark, and hit the buzzer. Trevor Lucasco's out to a pretty strong lead. Same kind of style, a little bit of the loping freestyle when he takes that breath. You can see his body kind of rises and lowers and rises and lowers. As long as he doesn't interrupt that rhythm, it's really not working against him. At the 50, that's Trevor Lucasco at 29.72, out quite fast. He's entered at a 2:07.61. Handling the heat just right. I always like to get those freestylers that look like Trevor's stroke in as close a races as possible. They tend to keep their tempo up a little faster when they're being challenged. On either side of him, Antonio Fricano from Canada and Sawyer Mills hitting their 100 splits. Trevor was 102.92, which he could be pretty close to that 207 entry time if he keeps it pretty strong. Even with that loping type of style of freestyle, when you get into the last 50, so you don't lose the balance out in front, you want to bring up your kicking tempo. So we'll see if he does that. He's turning at the 150. He's got a 50 to go. He's at 137.88, so he's probably not going to challenge that 207. That last 50 was a 34.9, so if he can at least hold 34 or under, he'll have a pretty well-constructed swim. It won't be a best time, but it'll certainly be one of the fastest times of the morning. That's Trevor Lukasco, 15 meters to go in his 200-meter freestyle. An outstanding effort. I get to see him train next to the para-tri team in the mornings as he trains with the resident team in Colorado Springs. He was 34.9, so he even split that last 100. That is absolutely outstanding to have the ability to do that. And that ability is not talent. That ability is hard work. He finishes at a 212.86, so congratulations, Trevor, on an outstanding swim. Even if he's not happy with his time, that was very well constructed. Second behind him was Sawyer Mills at a 222.81, and third from Canada, Antonio Fricano at a 228.84. I think we still have 4 swimmers going here. And you are watching lane 7. That is Alberto Diaz from Chile. He is swimming proud with that Paralympic Aguitos logo, I believe, on his chest. So he is literally wearing the Paralympics on his chest. Outstanding effort. That steady tempo is keeping his body aligned. Very symmetrical from left to right on his stroke. So he's keeping his body nice and long and straight. And that means less resistance. So the faster he goes doing that, the less resistance he will have, holding him back from going fast through the water. That is Alberto Diaz from Chile. He just spent some quality time at the Pan American Games in Santiago, Chile this last winter. Well, winter for Americans. Outstanding tempo. That tempo has not slowed down. He's got about 10 meters to go, and he has gone the same arm speed or stroke tempo the entire way. Again, that's not something you get from talent. That is something you get from just plain hard work. Outstanding effort and results for Alberto from Chile. 4:21.69. And if his entry time at 4:29 was his best time, he just dropped around 8 seconds. Outstanding. Swimmer in lane 8 from Mexico, from Canada, that's Riley Martin. I was looking at the wrong heat, I apologize. Comes in and finishes at a 4:51.48, and our sole remaining swimmer in this heat is Christopher Tronco Sanchez from Mexico. They're in lane 1. Again, you see so much body movement, but also if you look from the front of his head to the bottom of his hips, he's keeping his body aligned. He's staying in a very straight line, gets in there, finishes with the top of his head at the wall at a 5:19.29, about 19 seconds above his entry time, but the effort is just so impressive. Emily on the background audio here. I know she spent a lot of time, put a lot of thought in her music selection that we're just getting as kind of ambient background sound. As this third and final heat of the morning lines up behind the blocks. They're getting their sweats off, getting ready to go. They always give them ample time to prepare. Swimmers, you want to stay nice and warm. Keep that body core that you warmed up with. Keep that nice and warm when you bring yourself out to the blocks. So it takes a little time to get all those sweats off, get up out of your chair, onto your block or onto the side and into the pool. If you need the time, you get the time. Okay, this final heat 3 in lane 1 is Jesus Cervantes from Mexico. In the United States, Marcus Vital. In lane 3 for the United States, Trevor Bell. Watch lane 4 start and underwater. He will put himself out in front. That is Lawrence Sapp. Absolute pro at getting away from the blocks. Quick away from the blocks. Great dolphin kick underwater. Comes up a few strokes shy of 15 meters, but almost every time out in front. Javier Rodriguez next to Lawrence in lane 5. He's from Puerto Rico. From the United States, that's Isaac Barton in lane 6. Marcos Zarate Rodriguez in lane 7 from Mexico, and also from Mexico, Octavio Romero Velasquez. It's all Lawrence Sapp here, turning at the 50, 27.81. His entry time is 2:05. So actually a 27 is pretty good going out here. So Lawrence never, I will repeat, Lawrence never holds back in a race. So you're always seeing 100% effort out of Lawrence when he's racing. This is no exception. He's going to be just under a minute at the 100, 59.25. Which means he's got some leeway here. If he can hold on to his speed, not let it deteriorate too much, he might be right around that 2:05 entry time. Just behind him was Hernandez Rodriguez from Peru at the 100. He's over in lane 5 next to Lawrence. But not only next to as far as lane orientation. Nobody is next to Lawrence Sapp as he comes into his 150 here. He is at 133. That was a 34.5. He's really got to do something big here in this last 50 to get to the 2:05. But we'll see what his last split is. He was 34.5 in that third 50. If he can be really close to that, then the final time always matters, but it doesn't matter as much if you're keeping that last 100 evenly split or very close to evenly split. 2:05 is passing us by right now. He's got about 3 strokes to go. Hits the wall at a 2:09. You know, he's 35.29, so he kept that together really well. Great swim out of Lawrence. Right next to him, Hernandez Rodriguez from Peru. I'm sorry, Puerto Rico. I really apologize that I do that. He was 2:16.61 and in second place in that heat. Third in that heat, out in lane 8, was Octavio Ramirez Velasquez. Got a little less than 100 to go in lane 1, and we've got lane 7 and 2 still racing. That's lane 2. Marcus Vital from the United States, swimming that from an upper body. It looks like a one-arm butterfly, but it's a very powerful freestyle kick. And keeping that kind of dolphin rhythm in his freestyle coming into the wall, that is very, very smart. Because when you're tired, you can rely on rhythm more than you can rely on strength. So that was very well done by Marcus. He was in the wall at 3 minutes, 0.63. Here's this is lane 1, Jesus Cervantes from Mexico. Again, you can see a rhythm when he dips that right arm and right shoulder and his head goes underwater a little bit. If he doesn't do that, he has a shorter stroke. So by dipping down on that side, he's getting a little bit of more length out of that right arm pull. So he turns at the 150 in a 3:49. keeping his long body aligned. That is so important. And he's got that rhythm where he presses that right shoulder underwater, and that gets him a little more stroke length out in front of his shoulder. Marcos Zarate Rodriguez just finished in lane 7, but the time did not come up. So congratulations for your swim. We have, in the timing system, there are backups for the backups. So if you ever see a blank time behind a lane, that just might be a problem with the touchpad. The timers behind the lanes they each have a button that they push, and those are averaged. And they also have a stopwatch. So we always have 3 opportunities to get somebody's time and get it right, get it accurate. This is Jesus Lopez Cervantes from Mexico finishing up his 200 freestyle. Got about 4 meters to go. And you can see, as we watched him before, he's picked up his tempo for the finish. And there he goes, knocks it into the wall, 5:07.97. You have been watching the Citi Paraswimming World Series. This is the USA stop on the series in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we thank you for watching. This was our last race of the morning, and we will be back at 5 o'clock U.S. Eastern Time. So thanks for joining us. We will get on this and get these athletes rested, fed, and back for some even faster swimming this evening. You can see all a great recap of what we watched this morning on your screen. Just out. And from the Indiana University Natatorium, this is John DeSleer for U.S. Paralympic Swimming at the Paraswimming World Series, brought to you by Citi. We thank you so much, and we hope to see you in our finals tonight.
Thank you all. We hope to see you